I guess I'll start out by talking how I came to this issue, because that's kind of what brought Fatibir in as well. About a year ago, as you all know, last summer around solstice time, the news was breaking that our current administration had a policy of child separations at the border. And I actually wasn't in the US when I found out about that. I was traveling abroad for work, and so I kind of, because I was so far from home and I wasn't at solstice, which was, different for me. I'm usually at solstice every year. I didn't feel very grounded, and so I kept checking the internet for news, like what's going on with this, like is this really happening? I couldn't believe that children were being separated in that way from their parents, and I couldn't believe that our country had a policy of that, and I was just really wanting to be home and do something about it, and there was nothing that I could really do, and I felt very powerless and very disconnected. And so I knew Fatibir was at solstice. I was checking the internet and came across a kind of a feed on Instagram where someone posted that there was a Sikh community, a Sikh corporation, that was involved in guarding an immigrant detention center. And that, that post kind of jarred me, and when I looked and kind of looked further and I saw that Akal did indeed guard an immigration detention center, then I became very concerned, and I reached out to Fatibir on WhatsApp. I'm like, you're at solstice, what's going on? I can't ask questions, but you're there, you can ask questions. So will you please ask those questions? And so she started to ask those questions. I knew right away that if it were true that I wouldn't have to kind of disassociate myself from the community. I knew that I would have to leave the community. And that is a very personal response on my part. As an African American, I'm very well aware of the prison industrial complex and the way that impacts Black and Brown, especially men, but the Black and Brown community in general. African Americans are incarcerated at extreme rates in this country. And if you watch 13th, documentary by Ava DuVernay, it'll really lay out for you how that is linked to our history of slavery in this country, and how the private corporations in particular are allowing the expansion of prisons and imprisoning people and criminalizing certain things, and how that criminalization is now becoming linked to immigrants. And so through that documentary, through my reading of Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, and also through reading Angela Davis's work, and particularly her last book, Freedom is a Constant Struggle, if you read those things, you can see why, as an African American, it would be really difficult for me to remain connected to a community that I feel is somehow supporting or connected to or being supported by a call or a private prison. And so I didn't want to disconnect, though, because of course this community has brought me a lot of healing. It's brought me a lot of nurturing. It's brought me friends, including people in this room, and family, people I consider family. And to not be able to engage in those spaces anymore was going to be quite painful, but I knew immediately that that would be my own personal choice that I would have to make. So I reached out to Fatibir to find out, well, what really is going on. And I also reached out to a teacher of mine that I respect who never replied. And that silence was also a little jarring to me. So I think I'll leave it to Fatibir because she kind of picks up the torch from there.
Yes, well, I was in the dining tent at summer solstice, and my phone actually rang through WhatsApp, which if you've been up there, you know is really strange, but to get a phone call, and it was Kim, and she was basically freaking out and was saying, what is this? Have you heard about this? What's going on? And my reaction was this: what? No. That's a mistake. Don't worry about this. No, don't worry. There's no way that we have anything to do with this. And I truly believed that it was going to be cleared up, like I was going to find out what was actually going on, And then, maybe go into wherever this Instagram post was and just correct the record after I'd gotten the information. And what I understand now is that my disbelief was twofold. One was that I have such heartfelt, deep, meaningful connections in this community. This community has essentially, it saved my life, and I hold it very dear. I have great respect for the people who, came before and established everything, in our senior teachers and whatnot. But it was also, I realized it was a function of my white privilege, that it was inconceivable to me that this could be the case. So the notion that there was literally no way was accessible to me in a way that it's not to someone who has personal experience with that situation. So then after solstice, I started to ask questions and call around, and I inquired, what's going on, and I was told, the first thing I was told was, we're working on a statement, hang on. I said, okay, fair enough. And I guess it was like maybe 48 hours later or something, maybe a week, I don't remember the timetable of that, but they released a statement, and it was very, very vague and not at all helpful, and didn't answer any questions really, of it was so vague. And I proceeded to inquire further and inquire further and inquire further, and I was getting nowhere substantive. And I realized pretty quickly that the only way that things were going to actually shift, if they would at all, would be to bring public pressure to bear. And I was hoping that the public pressure I was referring to would be within our community, that we would seek this change, what I would like to think of as an evolution into a more Aquarian way of conducting ourselves and all that. But so I put together a petition, and I put together a website pretty quickly, and I posted it, and literally 1 second later, Kim texted me, wow. And there we were. And so we were getting some attention, enough attention that I was invited in September. That was all in July that I put up the petition, July last year, 2018. And in September of 2018, I was invited to Espanola, New Mexico, to present in front of the Khalsa Council about the petition. And if you want to see that presentation, there's a video available on YouTube. It's also on the page here. You can look in the video section, and you can watch what I showed them. And the segment was supposed to last an hour, and it was very, very intense, and it ended up lasting 2.5 hours with people asking questions and making comments and whatnot. And it was very surprising to me, the range of opinions about it, and that some people were vehemently defending Akal, and that and I want to say right there too, let me make it very, very clear that Akal is a company filled with people, and they are people in our community, and they are, our sadhana right now is recognize the other person as you, and that doesn't just count for the people that we are endeavoring to help with our effort. It also means everyone involved here, we're all part of this. So there are many people at all levels who are very distressed by this and are hoping that we can make this shift. But I just wanted to point that out, because when I arrived there, the folks I met from Akal, there was quite a bit of distress, because they were feeling very attacked, I guess you would say, and know, that's not my intention. My intention has nothing to do with attacking someone personally. It has to do with our community aligning properly with the values that we claim to uphold, the values that I teach people when I sit on the bench and teach Kundalini Yoga. And so after the presentation, basically nothing really happened. And, you know, a lot of time passed, and here came solstice for this year, and neither of us, we each chose not to attend out of protest, which was, it's a huge thing for me not to go. But I didn't go, and I prepared a video to put online before solstice, and then Fania Davis, Dr. Fania Davis was the speaker at Peace Prayer Day, and she's an expert on restorative justice. She happens to be the sister of Angela Davis, who's quite famous. And she gave an amazing speech in which she called out the situation. The transcript is available on the website if you want to read it. And from there, things really started taking off.
And so, in thinking about where I am right now with this issue, I essentially had been waiting, you know, actually, Fatih and I didn't talk through the whole process, the whole time where she was coming up with her petition and doing all of that. I had basically said I'm going to step away until I have some answers that makes me feel comfortable to come back. And so my prayer was that I would hear some answers that would allow me to come back with a clear conscience. And I haven't to this day heard any. So I've stepped away, and where I have kind of, for myself, drawn my boundary is, you know, I love my friends, I love my community, I continue to teach, but I'm not going to mingle my money. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business relationship that's happening. So energetically, I'm not going to mingle with businesses that are either supported by Akal or that support Akal. And so, so there are some teachers that I will go to and others that I won't. And it's a very personal choice. And I don't judge anyone else their choices. So Fatih decided that she was gonna stay and do what she chose to do. I decided I'm just going to set some boundaries for myself, personal boundaries that I feel comfortable with. And I have friends that went to Solstice, and I support them, and we all have different reasons why we choose to go, why we choose to stay, you know, whatever we're choosing to do. I just kind of want to put it out there that I don't think there's a right answer for everyone. I think there's what's right for yourself. And so the reason I've come back now is because of Fania Davis, and because Fatih Bear actually invited me to help with this talk. But otherwise, I'm really a little torn because I would like to engage more, but I would love to hear some answers from our leadership about where we are.
I do want to clarify, it wasn't that I decided to stay, it was that I could not leave without doing everything I could possibly think of. I mean, if I have to go over this, it will be after this is the hill I'm dying on, you know, so I hope it doesn't go there. I hope we can correct our course here, but it was really just, I just couldn't work it out. How am I going to talk to my students? My students were asking me questions. You know, I had no answers. And I know I've heard from many, many teachers around the world really now that is happening, and they have no guidance. They don't know what to say because there have been no answers.
So I think now is where we'd like to open it up to you. And again, as we've said, there's no, for me, I'm not judging where anyone is. I'm just curious of where people are, and would love to hear, you know, what your thoughts are about the issue. I'd also like us to keep in mind that it's a broader conversation. It's not just about what Akal is doing. It's about what's happening in our country, and it's about what's happening with not just immigrant detention centers, but prisons. For me, again, this is my stake. So it's a bigger issue and not just the Akal issue. So there's a lot that we can do. There are a lot of actions that we can take that can involve addressing that. directly, or it can involve handling or helping the people that need the support the most. So we'd love to hear what brought your attention to this issue and where you are with it, and then also if you have any questions.
There are a few groups out there that are no more prisons that are pretty working with tearing down the industrial prison system of America, and it is a problem, but the media never plays into it. But there are active groups who are trying to eliminate private prisons for profit, and basically any nonviolent crimes should not be punished by being in prison. Absolutely, there's a lot of information out there. It is passed down through slavery. It is modern day slavery, absolutely. And yeah, people should become more aware of this issue and do whatever they can to stop it. I think it's maybe time for a little more direct action. I'm not saying violent action, but maybe a little more directness could be approached towards the media about this issue as well. My question is, as far as the call goes, how is that? What is the involvement within us? That they protect some detention centers? Is that?
So the short answer is it's very confusing. But as far as we understand, Akal is contracted with a facility in Miami called Chrome, and has been for some time. The part that gets confusing, and Chrome handles essentially adult male detainees. The part that gets very confusing is how government contracts are set up and awarded to these various private companies. It's quite mysterious and complicated. And so one of the questions that we have that's central to this is, first of all, people have a misconception that because it's a call, there are people walking around in these facilities that look like us, who are, chanting and, doing longer. I mean, it's just not, this is just a business where people are being hired to do a job. And so the question becomes, one of the things I brought to the council was, well, what is the oversight? I mean, how do we know that those people are then going, we're training people, are they all at Chrome, or are they going elsewhere? Even if Chrome is all squared away, which there are questions about that too, but even if it is, like, what about the part where there are call guards involved in the air transport, which means it's almost beyond belief that they didn't have any hands on any of the separated parents, because some of those parents were put on planes and flown out of the country immediately. So it's just a lot of murkiness. And one of the things we've been asking for is, can you please explain, and how can you account for this? And the reason that one of the reasons we feel it's so crucial is that many people don't understand that those private businesses that Yogi Bhajan established, they support the nonprofit entities, and those profits come in and help fund our spiritual activities. So, that's a bit of a problem. And then the other pressing issue about this question you're asking of, like, what do they really have to do with it, is that, as we all know, this policy, this situation is getting worse. It's not going away. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. There are more people coming from across the border trying to. There are more people getting crammed into these facilities. The child separations are still continuing. They claim they're not, but they are. So where does it, if it's not ending, where do we end? I mean, at what point is, if you're in a government contract and the government says do this, how much, what do you say to that? So.
Hi everybody, Satyajit, and like Kim, I've also decided to step away from the Kundalini Yoga community. I've been a teacher for 10 years. I still teach Kundalini Yoga. I'm not attending any trainings, any events, summer solstice, anything like that, that I know that there's a connection. I feel really passionate about this issue as a Latinx person, as a daughter of immigrants. Me and Kimberly and Fatabir have been talking about this since a year ago, and I've reached out to so many teachers, so many people that I respect and love in this community, and mostly I got nothing but silence. The few people I will give props to, Kripal Kalsa, who's the CEO of 3HO, did email me back and said, you know, she feels like she's kind of tied and she doesn't really know what to do either. So I feel like there's a lot happening within the community where some folks are cool with what's happening, some people are not okay with what's happening. And for me personally, I had to also step away from the community because I feel like there's not enough happening. No, the silence is enough. I get the silence is what's like, okay, I'm not hearing anything, no one's doing anything, nothing's happening, how can we still continue to be part of this? And I know 3HO, you know, if they do make money, it's not a lot of money, but for me, Akal Security, that's their contract with the government, those things are not going to stop. If they want to have a contract with the government and continue to do this work where they think is righteous work, that's on them, but I don't feel like we should be connected. I feel like 3HO, KRI, those things should not be connected to a call. So I think those things need to be separated if those things are going to, if the call's going to continue to do this work. And it is. I had a personal meeting with the VP, the senior VP of Akal Global, Simran Singh. We talked in person. We had a meeting probably about 4 or 5 months ago. He heard about that I was protesting and stuff. He wanted to meet me in person. I said, fine, let's meet up. And I had met him before at a training. Anyway, we talked, and he, you know, he really believes what he's doing is righteous work, and he feels like, well, we're treating people better than most of the people are getting treated in these facilities. And I'm like, I know, but it's still a prison. How can we still be part of this, you know? So he, for him, in his heart, he really believes what he's doing is right, and maybe all the people that are doing this believe that they're right. But how can, so I can't change his mind, you know? And he told me, oh, all the money's going to all these great causes, like we're buying school lunches in Española, we're buying winter coats for all these kids. Those are all great causes, absolutely, but is there not a way we can do that without being part of the prison industrial complex? Is there not a way we can do this without being part of this horrible situation?
I just think it's so messed up, and I don't even know how the teachers that I love have like totally not even responded to what's happening, you know? And I think enough is enough. I think what we have to do, for me personally, I feel like we have to call out all these senior teachers, anybody that's holding a training, anybody with KRI, 3HO, we have to put pressure on them so they can pressure the board. We have to write to the board, we have to write letters, we have to call people, and I think this is just, we're just a small piece of this huge thing that's happening. I know the money that we're making, even Simran told me, we're not making that much, they're not making that much money off of it, but we're still part of it. So I know if we got out of it, that's just one prison. I know that, you know, in the big scheme of things, but it would make a huge impact, and it would show the world that, you know, we're not going to stand for this, we're not for this. And I just want to thank both of you for putting this together, and everybody that's in this room, and everybody that's watching, and I want to thank Fania Davis for really speaking truth to power. I think that's really what helped to kind of make this movement have a little more traction, because we've been really working on this for a year. So, sadhana.
Sadhana, thank you. And I hope everyone who is listening, whatever your predisposition or your experience, perception, belief, opinion, I hope that what you can hear is the pain that is happening in our community as a result of this. We just heard someone expressing pain, and we need to respond to that.
I think I also want to acknowledge that I could not have said anything more beautifully than what you just said. And I'm right there with you on everything that you just said. The thing that concerns me are the people that, like myself initially, have just chosen to kind of just quietly walk away and not say anything. And so does our leadership understand that that's how people of color are responding to our community? Because this is a hard battle to fight on a daily basis, fighting racism, fighting white supremacy, fighting, all of the ways that we continue to be oppressed. And then when you find a community that you think is supportive of you, and then something like this comes out and you get silence from the people that you've respected for so long, it does make it really hard to continue, and it also turns away a lot of people. And so Satyajit and I are here as people who we want to remain engaged, but we cannot, in a clear conscience and with a clear, clean hands, cannot remain engaged. So, I know that there are other people who have just walked away and haven't said anything. So I just want that to be known. And if the community is okay with that, then I guess the community is okay with that. I mean, that says something to me.
Well, it's hypocritical. To be a Kundalini teacher and to support this is totally hypocritical.
And again, I think
It's
that,
silence.
as Satyajit said, that people feel like they're doing righteous work, and so people have their justifications of why they're doing these things.
Wow.
But yes, I hear your perspective. Does anyone else have anything to share?
I have a few questions.
Yes.
So, just kind of thinking, what are our options here? We have the petition for a call to sever ties with ICE. Is there a way for the 3HO company to step away from a call, like you mentioned, or is a call one of our biggest money makers? That's kind of one of my bottom line questions is are they funding us? You look at the chart as far as the nonprofit, the for-profit. I would really like some clarity from our leadership about how the financial aspects go, what it looks like. It's Aquarian to be transparent.
Absolutely.
We need to be transparent. I need to hear these things from our leadership. So again, back to the options. So petition a call to sever ties with ICE. They have it's like a 20-year legacy of working under the naturalization and immigration, etc. Now ICE, or severing ties with a call, which if they are a moneymaker, that doesn't seem like they would be willing to do that. But what if we organize some kind of social media campaign to boycott 3HO resources, like going to teacher trainings, going to summer solstice, the things you're doing quietly? What about? I look at like SeekNet and all these other resources daily,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to continue. Since learning about this, I haven't gone to any of these websites. I'm not going to use my daily app. I can't continue to buy books through this publishing. What are all these channels?
Right.
Can we maybe organize and come up with a list?
Yes.
And say,
let's
boycott these things until we either have an answer or, a path to an answer. So.
Yes, because this is great, because the petition is twofold. It asks for the severing the ties, and it calls for complete transparency of the funding stream, which we do not have. Everything you're asking, we have no answers about that. I don't know, and I want to know, and I think that we need to know. I also want to mention something about, you said the 20-year legacy. Akal was founded in 1980 by Yogi Bhajan, and in 1980, and in fact, all the way up to 9/11, we had a whole different attitude in the nation about immigration and refugees and asylum seekers. It was a very different mood. And after 9/11, that shifted dramatically. And that, of course, coincides with the rise of the private prison system. And this is motivated, there are operators in that system much larger than Akal, but Akal is still profiting in that framework. So there's one of the reports I've heard is that because Akal had some financial difficulties several years back, the reason that they are not making a profit is because they're still recovering from that financial difficulty. So that's sort of hair splitting, I suppose. But these are very good questions, and we definitely, I think there is a place to step up the pressure for sure of consequences for not getting answers or not.
Yeah.
You
I think
know.
like if it's about the money, if we're hitting them where it hurts, where it's money, if we're like not attending these events or, you know, Satnam Fest, any of these things like that are making money, if we stop going to those things or protesting those things, then that's gonna hurt them. And that's where, if this is about money, they're gonna feel that. And that's what maybe one of the things we can do.
Satnam Fest is not affiliated.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I would
Let's be
I
fair.
would just like to say, and I think your
Define.
point is very important. That was important to me. Like, which of the organizations, Spirit Voyage, SeekNet, yeah, what
Seek
teachers are on the
Dharma.
board, Seek
Yes.
Dharma, which ones profit?
Yeah.
So I did ask my own questions because, of course, I want to continue to engage in these things. And I asked a question of the Spirit Voyage CEO, and she said that they received no funds from Akal, except that maybe they had donated to one of the charitable organizations that they work with, but that Akal does not support Spirit Voyage. So I feel okay to go on Spirit Voyage and engage with that work and to go to Satnam Fest. I have not, however, because I'm still concerned about the teachers and where teachers stand, and I hear zero from teachers, and so. But their question from Facebook, Rajni asks, which organizations have you tried to talk to specifically, i.e. SSS Core, with what questions and what specificity did they say, what specifically did they say, if anything? And again, I spoke with Spirit Voyage, but has anyone else?
I mean, I've spoken to SSS Corp, to folks from Akal, to people at 3H. I mean, when I presented at the Khalsa Council, there were 5 representatives from Akal there, and they spoke as well. And that, by the way, that report about that presentation is available in the update section of the website. There's a lot of information on the website that you can read through about how far we've gone down this road, but there just hasn't been any specific answers. I mean, it's very vague. It always refers back to, like, you know, our values. We have, you know, we value transparency, and we, you know, we operate in this conscious way, but, you know, there just isn't any. I mean, I think part of it is that, you know, as a culture, this community, it was small, and now it's huge. And it used to be that everybody knew everybody. So if, you know, someone said to me, well, you know, this is above board, then if I knew and trusted you, then I could trust that information. But that's really not what we're dealing with now.
We've outgrown that model.
We've outgrown that model by far. And I want to make the point that the world is watching us. The Mexican Sangha is watching us. Other communities in South America are watching us. They want to know what is going on, what to say. They're very confused. And people do not want to believe that we're involved in this horrible mess, and yet they're left with no real information. There's a lot of rumors flying because there's been no actual concrete proof. Here's what we do. Here's how we know we haven't handled any parents, any separated families. Here's how we know. I've seen none of that. There's been nothing of that.
And for me, that wouldn't be enough, because it's still a prison regardless of if they've handled separated parents or not.
Right.
There's another question. If they are contracted with the government, what steps would be necessary to withdraw from the contract? And how long would that take? And how and when will we know this info?
Great question. If anyone in Española is listening right now, I hope you're taking notes, because these are our questions.
And let's see, Colleen says, Satnam, I'm devastated, would like to hear Akal's reps' arguments and top 3HO leaders. I did not believe it when I first heard it. And I think we heard a little bit about Akal's reps. What they feel they're doing is righteous work. They're worried about if they stepped out of this, then who would come in to fill the void? Would that organization not be as righteous? For me, as a descendant of enslaved Africans, if you're my master, whether you're a good master or a bad master, you're still my master, and you still have power over me, and you're still oppressing me. And so, for me, it's not about if the work is righteous or not. I think we can do righteous work around this issue without being part of the problem.
Without profiting from it.
So I'd like to, we only have a few minutes left, so I'd like to think about some next steps, and you came up with some really concrete steps. Are there other ideas, whether from Facebook or from the group here, in terms of what are some?
And we will be
Next
having
steps.
more discussions of this nature, definitely. This is not the last one, it's only the first one, so.
Yeah, I think getting organized and being vocal about this and not silently stepping, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, but we have to bring it to them. We have to be loud and get in their face and hit them where it hurts money. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I didn't know any of this was going on.
Well, the
but this is
petition
an
now has
outrage.
475
outrageous.
signatures. It had 200 signatures when I presented last year to the council. It now has 475 signatures, and about 200 of those have come since summer solstice.
Good.
That's just this recent summer solstice.
Just this, since
Yeah.
Tanya Davis.
I was at the Funny Davis talk, and I mean, I was just, I did hear about it before, and I'm embarrassed to admit that it wasn't on the forefront. I had maybe whatever, but I was in that talk, and I was just horrified because I was like, just to like, you know, just to be a part of all of it, and I just feel like, as far as solutions, whoever it may be, like 3HO or Sikh Dharma or whatever, I feel like we need to be calling them every day, like multiple people, and be like, this is not okay. Like, we do not want to be a part of this. Like, just because what everyone else said, you know, like, I've heard that argument about, oh, someone said they're keeping people safe and they've prevented so many things from happening, and it's like, no, that's bullshit to me. Like, we can't be involved in any way. This is terrible.
Yeah, just because they have a perspective, you call bullshit on bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. You know, they have their own justifications. You know, that doesn't make it right or that, you know, the same,
Right.
at all. So.
Yeah, and it's like, and then I've heard that, and I don't know what is true and what's not true, but I've heard that there's a call at the border camps. So it's like, how do we know?
I can tell you from my in-person meeting with Simran Singh, he said that they're actively searching for more contracts. So they're trying to increase the number of prisons that they are contracting with. So this is a big money maker. So they're seeing that, they're looking at that. And so he told me straight up, we're looking for more contracts because we think what we're doing is good work, and we're going to treat them better, and we're providing all these amenities for these prisoners. And I'm like, okay, it just blows my mind. But anyway, I feel like one of the things we can take is maybe peaceful protesting, or maybe not so peaceful, I don't know, whatever, but like maybe at the next White Tantric Yoga here in Los Angeles, like we can get a coalition of folks where we're protesting, maybe having signs or talking to folks, like whatever event that is coming up, even if NomFest is not profiting, we can still go to these events and we can still talk to folks.
Yes,
because
for sure.
These senior teachers, they have clout. They're making money off of training still. They're making money off of trainings are a big business, $3,000-4,000 a person. I've done 2 of them, and so I know how much money they're making. So these teachers cannot act like they're not involved, you know. So anyway, that's one suggestion, is having some kind of protest at the next events that are happening in Los Angeles, or maybe for folks anywhere around the world. I know there's a teacher in New York that was protesting at the White Tantric Yoga in New York City that's coming up. So
Maybe making a list of the different teachers who are silent on this as well, and putting that.
Well, that's
everyone. That's everyone.
Everyone?
Yeah. Everyone is
There's
silent.
not been one senior teacher to speak out publicly and call this out specifically. No.
And and to that, I did initially choose to walk away silently. I put my post up on Facebook telling why. I wasn't completely silent. I did say why. But at the same time, I did think to myself, why am I feeling hesitant to speak? And if that's how I'm feeling, what does that say about the community?
Right.
Yeah.
So
There's definitely a problem in our community, definitely a problem with diversity, but really a problem with inclusion. Because, for example, at the Khalsa Council meeting, the voices of those most affected, there were only a few people there from south of our border, south of the US border, but they were clearly, visibly emotional while I was presenting, and very, very distressed and upset, and the comments and the discussion overwhelmingly drowned them out. I mean, a lot of them didn't even speak, and why would they? Because of what they were hearing. So I think we have to really, especially if you're not a person of color in this community, it is time to really start thinking about how you are receiving and embracing and accepting others, people that you think are others. Again, that's our sadhana. Recognize the other person as you, is our sadhana, you know, because there is no difference, and you've got to get into yourself. Like I said about me understanding that it was my white privilege that made it so inconceivable that this was possible. That was white privilege, right? We hear about that a lot now, but that's white privilege in action. That's an example of it, right? And I had to look at that, and that was one of the reasons Kim and I didn't talk while I was putting the website together, because the petition on the website, I could not face her. I couldn't face her. She's one of my closest friends in this community, and I was like, I can't face her until I've done something.
So someone says, I think info tables at events would be more effective than angry protest. Someone else says, I understand applying pressure, but does cutting off all the good being done thanks to Yogi Bhajan teachings, really a solution? It has saved so many lives. And I don't think anyone's saying whether we shouldn't engage in the teachings.
Yeah, the teachings are the teachings, and I mean, any of us, 3HO and SDI and KRI, these are affiliations. The teachings are the teachings, and we embody them. Yes.
Hi, I'm Karta Simran Kaur Singh. I am a member and a teacher for the LGBTQI community and for Indigenous peoples. This issue is really important, and I think the fact that finding other people is a good step, finding support. Because being a person of color, being a person that's not so included in a lot of communities, talking to Kim last year really helped me find that bridge, find that strength and that bravery where I can be able to speak up on my own account on what it feels like that this is happening. And I think getting that support system, finding out the information that will allow us to go to the different spaces, go to these studios, go to the ashrams, go to the places where they are being addressed, and address these issues like with love and compassion. And I have a lot of students asking, like, how do we feel, like, how do we navigate, what do we still do our practice? Your personal practice is personal. That no one can ever touch that. You know, how we go through this isn't going to determine on our healing. It's just that we want to make sure that we want transparency where we're putting our funding into. And if you choose to pull back, that's your choice, and I support you. And I think that's very important as teachers for our students, is like, if they choose to leave, if they choose to do whatever, is that we support them.
Yes.
You know, and like whatever they do, I mean, I think that's like the whole acquiring age, is not to get so stuck in that duality and that polarity of what's good and what's bad. You know, we're all here together, we're all going through this together. And to just realize that we have that support. We have people who have these spaces to hold this kind of discussion. And you don't have to be afraid anymore. You know, we are here with you. Look us up, find us online, speak to us. You know, we will support you and give you encouragement the way I was, you know, given encouragement to be brave myself. Because I was discriminated by the ashram for being queer. I was discriminated by the ashram for being talking out on this issue. The fact that I have support changed that. I had someone to talk to. I had someone to relate with, someone to like release and to like get insight. Because I remember talking to Kim after I posted some stuff, and there was all this feedback on my post. I was like, I'm like really drained. I'm not gonna do much on this anymore until like I get myself together. But I do have an upcoming meeting with Simran Singh, and I have a lot of like clear questions now what I want to ask him as far as what is the next step. I want to move forward. I'm not trying to talk about the righteous goods that we're all doing. I want to talk about what we're doing to move forward. So.
Waheguru, that was beautifully said.
So we're about at time, and we can continue this conversation. We hope people will continue to engage with us on Facebook. Obviously, those of us in the room, we can be a support, whether we choose to leave or to stay within the community, but just that we are like-minded. So then how do we support each other in making sense of all of this?
And the two places that anyone watching anyone who's not here, can get information will be the Facebook page, the dedicated Facebook page that you're currently linked into if you're watching on Facebook Live, and the website, which is you can also get to through the Facebook page or through any number of things. And anyone can friend me, Fateh Birkar, on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You can even email me. It's fatehbirkar@yahoo. Let's keep our conversation and emails elevated, please. And I really do, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think and what you want to do, and we're definitely ready to organize some steps forward.
Peaceful, elevated, compassionate, and yet standing in our truth.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we should close out with some satnams?
Yes, I think that's
Okay, I'll let you do that.
3 long satnams. Inhale. Sa